Brett Miller, welcome to the Forward One podcast.
Welcome, Brett.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Super grateful to have you here. You're such a dynamic guy, grateful, always positive. I'm a huge believer in gratitude and attitude. You definitely exemplify that. Tell us like a little bit about how your real estate journey began, because I know you have a really unique background as an entrepreneur, and I'd like to unpack that a little bit first.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me, and congratulations to you guys and Paul and those not here for your new company. I wish you guys much success.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm not really a positive guy when I'm standing next to you, because you use it all day long. Every Sunday I get a text from him, a motivational text or something that's very inspiring, or not only just real estate related, but general. And Josh, you're a guy that, you're always uplifting everyone around you, and I appreciate it, man.
That means a lot. I appreciate that, brother.
So back to your question, what was it?
So how did your real estate journey begin? When did it begin? How did it begin? What were you doing previously, and why real estate?
So I immigrated to America in 1993. Started off personal training. A really good friend of mine, John Park, had an exclusive gym. I trained a lot of celebrities, things like that. But that wasn't really what I had dreamed about doing. And as a kid, I was like, I want to go to LA, be in Hollywood, and be an agent for actors and that type of a thing. And basically gave up, what was a successful personal training gig to go and work in a mailroom and make $1,200 a month or something, starting from scratch. And
At an agency?
At a talent agency, yeah. And then I was an assistant to someone and became like a junior agent. And that's kind of where I realized I could sell a little bit. I was selling these actors to casting directors and scripts or whatever. But I was in an office all day, and I wasn't enjoying that part of it, to be honest with you. And I figured, look, if I can sell an actor to a casting director, what's going to give me the freedom to be out there, looking. I remember sitting in, it was like an office like this, right? There was this amazing view of Los Angeles, and I was sitting behind this desk for 12 hours a day. And, with respect, we work really hard as real estate agents, but, agents in Hollywood, they work hard. I mean, they're grinding it out just like we are, And I was like, I just don't think I can be behind this desk doing what I'm doing, for day in, day out. So my late mother, bless her, she was at one point when I was a kid, she was doing some rentals for a friend who had a real estate firm in South Africa. So I saw it a little bit, and I was around it, and she enjoyed it. So that was my first little intro to it. But many years went by, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk away from this, and I'm gonna get my license and sell some real estate. So I actually trained a family, a very wealthy Beverly Hills family, and they were my clients when I was doing the personal training. And they said, hey, come and work with us at our home office. They had a bunch of buildings, it was more commercial stuff, and got my license, started working there. But
so not at a traditional broker.
No, it wasn't at all. Yeah, it was a family office, and so started working there, and I just wasn't enjoying it because it was just about the numbers. It was like, if those days it was like fax machines, and it would be like the rent roll and what was the cap rate and the percentage, and I'd fax it to someone. They'd be like, okay, this makes sense or doesn't make sense. I was like, wait a second, I'm kind of not really selling this. It just depends on how these numbers pan out, if it works or makes sense or it doesn't, right?
Yeah, that's commercial.
And in those days, they actually did make sense. Today, So I landed up picking up my first deal was a triplex in Westwood, and that was my first taste of it. And then I landed up picking up a client who wanted a house in Nichols Canyon. And what was interesting was, so I go and I get in my car and I'm kind of driving around and I'm looking at signs, and I see a sign by the Hurwitz James Company. It said Bob Hurwitz. So I call this number, and I'm like, he's like, Bob, can I help you? And we start chatting. And about an hour later, we're still on the phone talking. And he said to me, wait a second, where do you work again? And I was like, I actually work for the Wolf family in Beverly Hills. He goes, what do you say? Are you talking about Fred Wolf? And I'm like, yes. He goes, Fred's one of my best friends.
Wow.
And he actually said to me, he's like, wait, what is it? Why are you there? He goes, you have a good personality. Like, we just met and we've had an hour-long conversation. Yeah. Why don't you come and come talk to me? And I'll never forget. So he's like, come to it was a house in Truesdale, I think on Leslie Lane, and it was listed for like $1.8 million at the time. And I drove there on a Tuesday, brokers open. met with Bob, sat there, and we spoke about it, and he's like, I think you should come and give it a shot at the residential stuff. So that's basically how.
And that was when?
Started.
Just that was 2002.
Okay.
And Bob has an amazing business. He deals with luxury real estate. Pretty much working from his beach in the marina, and he's an amazing salesman, and he taught me a lot. And basically what got me going there, he's like, Brett, you have access to all my open houses. And that's really essentially how I built my business. I every single Sunday for, I'm talking 5 years, even longer.
Yep.
I would work every single open house on a Sunday consistently. And, that I guess that's what one of my positive attributes is, that I'm very good at turning a stranger into a client, and please God, one day into a friend, and when people walk into an open house, I can communicate to them and get my points across, and I can befriend someone into hopefully trusting me and thinking that I know what I'm doing, and allowing me to maybe send them some stuff and shoot them things that are not on the market, and build a relationship, and hopefully start closing some deals with them. So that was essentially how I got involved in residential.
And that was a very vibrant time in the market.
That
lead up to 2008.
Yeah,
it was a feeding frenzy.
It was a great time, and it's kind of strange because just talking about Bob again. So today he's still one of my best friends. We landed up doing a lot of deals together. In fact, I even sold Bob some properties, and I guess you could say that was my first round of making real money. But I did get distracted, and I landed up. I had a very close friend, Anton, who had a massive hospitality company, and they were at the time had some of the best restaurants and bars and clubs in Los Angeles. A fellow South African guy, and I was young still, and I was like. Again, I was like, oh, wow, this is so exciting. I'm like, I want to be involved in these deals. I want to be involved in these deals. So I never forget, it was the biggest deal I'd done until that point. I'd sold a property in Malibu. I think at that time it was like just under 10 million.
Wow,
so even back then it was a big one. Today,
like early 2000s?
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I got my commission check, and I didn't even deposit it. I signed it over to my friend and put it into a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
But I did these times. So I was just like a wild guy, and I was like doing, these things where in hindsight, and I don't want to get too distracted on that time in my life, but it was around that just before 2008, and I got involved in these restaurants. And then when things took a downturn, I actually lost a restaurant where I had a lot of money in it, and it was a little challenging for me because it was a hard time in my life. I lost that restaurant, and I said, okay, well, this was just before the crash. I'm like, that's fine. I'll just get back into my real estate, because I actually I went almost out of real estate at that point. I hadn't. Right. There were about 2 years there where I wasn't really doing real estate at all. I was just focused on these restaurants building, and then I started to get involved in another restaurant in Beverly Hills that didn't go too well either. So I'd sunk a lot of cash into these restaurants. I was like, okay, I'll just go back and sell real estate. And then the market crashed, and I couldn't. So it was a challenging time in my life. And once I came out of that nightmare after pretty much losing everything, I was like, okay, look, I'm not gonna. I know what I'm good at. I'm good at selling real estate. That might be the only thing I'm good at in terms of business. And every time I got distracted and did anything else, I lost money.
So let me ask you a couple things coming back to that. So what was roughly your best year pre the hospitality world in terms of just even number of deals?
I can't remember what I had for breakfast last week. I'm getting old now.
But obviously,
I sold some for 10. I handed a check over for 180 grand or whatever was the time. I probably made myself, I don't know, north of 500K that year. 600-700. I don't really remember.
And exactly. So when did you, in your own mind, or maybe you never did, say like, "Hey, I'm good at this"? Do you recall that? Like, I actually can. Obviously at that point you knew you can make a great living out of it because you were. But like, when did you feel like, hey, I guess maybe when did you attach real estate to being part of your identity? Maybe is a better way to say it.
I would say after selling real estate for a few years, I could tell I was good at it. But, it's all relative. Like, I'm pretty hard on myself. Like, even today, I know I'm good at it. But then I go online and I see, I don't want to name names. I see some guy that goes, 1.2 billion sold in 2025. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not good at this at all.
Well, it's all relative.
I know, but I'm just saying, that guy did in 2 weeks what I did in a year. And I had a pretty decent year last year, thank God. So I'm probably, I'm quite tough on myself when it comes to that, which is, something I need to maybe avoid. And
I want to hit on the open house piece for a moment, because many top agents have built their businesses on the foundation of open houses. If you can reflect back on the open house dynamic, what was your focus when you were hosting an open house? Like, what were the priorities? What was the preparation? Right? What were you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Well, there's two things in an open house you're trying to achieve. Number one, you're trying to sell the property you're sitting in for yourself, if it's your listing or your broker or someone's company, or a friend, if whatever. So that's your main goal, right? The second goal is to pick up buyers and build that relationship and hopefully sell them that home or sell them something else. So that's the goal, and what I realized, I always knew I was a people person. I love people. I connect with people very easily. I can walk into a room and the person standing next to me, I can, have a 2-hour conversation, walk out of them, they'll be my friend if we connect on those levels. And that, so I kind of leaned into that. And as I started to get into real estate, you always go with your attributes, right? So I knew that, but just by trial and error, knowing that, okay, me doing a bunch of mailings and spending, I don't know what, $5,000 on hitting an area and postcards and all these things and maybe getting X amount of leads off that. If I took that same $5,000 and just plonked myself at a restaurant on my own.
Took your friends out to lunch.
Took friends out to
nice lunch over and over again. Yeah.
Or even by myself, just, sat myself at a let's say in Malibu, sit myself at Tavern of Tony's and sit there and talk to the person next to me at the table and, and I can actually engage and I can connect.
And I'm so jealous of that guy.
But that actually is, I would say, is maybe my
superpower.
Well, I wouldn't say, but that is my marketing tool. Like there's people in my office.
It's your superpower.
Yeah, they go and they're very good at mailings and there's people. There's people know that knock doors and I've knocked doors once in my career for an hour and I was like, this just isn't for me. I don't like it when people you knock on my door and ask if I want to sell my house when I'm eating dinner or watching TV or whatever it is, and I just want to be that guy. But then, you talk about a guy like Santi who built an empire knocking doors in 2008 or whatever. So what works for certain people.
I think one of the keys to life, quite frankly, is identifying your unique superpower.
Absolutely.
And clearly you have, because everyone's unique. And obviously, per that superpower, that passion drives consistency and sustainability, because I'm a huge believer.
Connect and over time. Right.
And do it with consistency, as I say, because greatness takes time, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. And you earn that opportunity way before they have the need, right? You're not looking for the needle in the haystack. You're sitting there trying to develop relationships so that you can be of value to someone, so that when they have the need to buy or sell real estate, you're their guy.
Yeah,
right?
and then obviously it depends. Look, they're not only meeting me that week or whatever, or how many. So what are you doing once you meet that person as well? And that probably, I'm actually not good at that.
Like the follow-up.
The follow-up. So if we being completely honest on this podcast, I'm not the most organized guy in the world, to be honest with you. Like, if you saw how I even in my phone, how I stagger my buyers, you'd probably be like, wow, how does this guy even close a deal? Yeah. So it's not my forte. And, have
you discovered any systems along the way to kind of fill that gap?
I have. I've gotten better at it. On a sundown, normally we'll sit down and be okay, like who are the buyers that I'm really active with at the moment, and put an order of priority and so forth, and maybe use that week to kind of focus on the XYZ or these people. But at the same time, my mind fires pretty quickly, and like, for instance, like yesterday, someone shot me an off-market property, and I was like, wait a second, didn't someone ask me for this? And I had to literally go into my phone and text, which is, again, shows my disorganization, because I could have had another way. I looked at the form, this guy asked me for that on such and such a date, but I didn't have that. So I went in and I shot this buyer. I said, hey, we haven't spoken in a couple of months, but I think it was about a year ago, you asked me for this, condo in Malibu. I just got this off market and I'm showing it to him next Sunday. But again, I could probably do more deals if I was.
Synchronicity was you were better at it. I have a similar problem.
You're not alone.
But I understand that it's all floating in the ether of my mind and trying to put those 2 points together.
I think for me, a lot of real estate is putting the two dots together. Sure. But I feel like it's also the universe bringing those two dots coming together at the right time, because a lot of it is just synchronicity where,
Absolutely,
like I say, that text came in. If that text didn't come in, I probably wouldn't even have thought of that buyer.
Trigger.
Maybe for another 2 months, or maybe maybe never. I mean, I don't want to say maybe never, because it doesn't make me seem like a good real estate agent. I'm not thinking about it. But again, like, I have a lot of buyers. I wish I had as many listings as I do buyers. Right. I mean, 40 buyers right now, 50. I don't know. There's a lot.
That's a huge amount of buyers.
But how many buyers are buying? What makes sense today? Like, a lot of my buyers are developers. Trying to put those, go find a remodel.
Half of that 40 developers?
Yeah, I'd say about half of that.
Okay.
And I'm just going to come back to, like, when you're grateful and have a good attitude, which I know you do, there's a gravitational pull. People want to connect. So, like, that in and of itself it's its own way, a system that a lot of agents, quite frankly, just don't possess. So I know you do, and I think that's where a lot of opportunity will present itself.
Well, again, and as I say, like, being honest on this podcast, Josh, you are extremely positive person all the time, whereas I can be, and when I am, I do attract, and things do come to me, and the texts do come in when they're meant to, and that happens. But I can also go in the complete opposite direction. I can get into that downward spiral where I am negative. I'm not clear. I'm hard on myself. I'm repelling things, and I can dwell in that space longer than I should. So, again, if you ask me what...
Well, I appreciate the honesty and the track. I mean, it's like you attract what you project. I'm a huge believer in that. And at the very least, you have that level of self-awareness to know that, because if you're not aware, then you can't quote unquote fix a challenge, but at least the awareness puts you in a position to create a solution.
So I have one of my best mates, Rod Vienna, if anyone's listening. He's an amazing mortgage broker, Mortgage Club, go check him out. But Rod is he wakes up in the morning, meditates for an hour, like goes to retreat, like very...
Does the whole miracle morning kind of
very,
vibe.
very, very, cold plunging, blah, 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 blah. Like, 3-hour morning before he even looks at his phone. You know what I mean? Whereas, I've tried for years to try and meditate, and I just can't seem to do it. So I try to find my own way of release. So for me, I'm a runner. So, thankfully, I'm blessed at the moment. We live in, like I mentioned, Malibu, and I got this amazing boardwalk close to my house. So for me, I hit that boardwalk hour run. I get into that runner's high, which for me is a meditative state. I come out of that, and that is my release. So when I say that I'm, have these bad days or these negative spirals, whatever you want to call it, if I can make the time to go and have that run, normally I'll come out of that run feeling a little bit better, a little bit cleansed, a little bit more positive, and hopefully can get back on the horse and be more like Josh and sell some real estate.
Josh is a little bit of a unicorn. Don't judge yourself against him.
So let me ask you this. Now, coming back, you spent time in the hospitality world. Inevitably learned a lot. Then you came back into real estate.
Yeah, so like I say, that was a very challenging time. I literally lost everything. So I had to, I started from scratch, but then I was like, okay, so how did I do this before, right? I mean, start making some calls again, let people know that you're kind of back in the game or whatever. But I went back to square one, and I was like, okay, I got to get some open houses. And I started, was I with Bob at the time? Yeah, I was. I think I was still with Bob Hurwitz at the time. Started working open houses again, and getting, the market started coming out from this whole crash in 2008, and fortunate enough to start building my business again. And, thank God everything has been on an upward trajectory, and it's been amazing. I was able to.
And how has that evolved? So that's like roughly, I'm going to guess 2010-ish. I mean, is that?
Yeah, so no, a little bit later. So 2008, yeah, I lost one originally. Yeah, around 2010, 2011.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, my 2011, 12 started getting back into real estate. But again, nothing works easy. You know, those were years where I wasn't making amazing money. You know what I mean? A couple $100,000 if I was lucky. And, you know, so they were tough years too. You got to rebuild yourself. And, you know, I'd actually lost my home in that nightmare. So it was about getting the basic things like getting your credit back on track, you know, things like that, you know what I mean? So it took a bit of time. And, you know, America, I think, can be very forgiving if you put your head down and you work hard, you can achieve. So, you know, but again,
so what have been the pillars? So open houses, bring us to, because you're very
open houses was my main. But then, like I said, I realized that, and I tried the other things. I tried the writing letters, and I mean, you know, there were times where, let's say I picked up a buyer where they said, hey, I want something in the flats. I would drive the flats daily to see what had been torn down. Is something new. I'm calling a developer, really working hard to try and, you know, find a property off market and do what I could to help that client get what they needed and hopefully close a transaction with them. And, you know, speaking of just that particular client, I met at an open house and they told me they wanted something, and I worked with that client for 5 years before I sold them something. And I landed up selling them an incredible house in the Palisades on Amalfi for, I think it was like 13 or 13.5 or whatever it was. But that was 5 years of work. Turned out they like some of my best friends today. But again, you know, like you got to stay on it. You know, that was a lot of time, a lot of showings, a lot of effort, a lot of driving, as I said, looking, you know, there was a lot that went into that one sale. You know, so to your point, like just working the opens, staying on top of your clients. But, you know, when I said like, okay, what marketing does and doesn't work, right? So, you know, I remember the one time I was standing in a Starbucks and there was a person behind me and they said something on their phone or something about wanting to move or whatever. And I turned and I said, hey, you know, I couldn't help but overhear what you said. I'm a real estate agent, you know, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And if you don't mind, let's chat. You know, I'm not a pushy guy. Maybe I have something you want. And we sat down, we had that coffee, and literally within 60 days, I'd closed an escrow with that person. You know, so I love it. So that I pretty much stick to that, and I'll be honest, I don't really do
the concept
that much
of
other marketing.
So opportunity exists everywhere in your life. Your footprint is where the opportunity exists. Wherever you're standing in that moment is where the opportunity exists.
And then so like...
And it's taking initiative, because like so many people would have been in that position. They wouldn't have done anything. I mean, quite frankly, the vast majority of even real estate agents would not.
So here's something that happened recently, which I have a big regret on. So I went to see, I don't want to name names of celebrities and stuff, but I went to go see an opening of a movie, right? And I'm with my beautiful wife, Kimberly, and friends of ours. We're in Oha, and they invite us to this screening. And we go see the screening, and it's a major, major director standing there. And my first instinct was, I'm going to walk up to this guy and I'm going to introduce myself, make sure that we connect, and I'm going to sell this guy property. And I said to he was bombarded by a bunch of people, and they wanted to show me this new hotel that opened up across the way or whatever. So we walked to the hotel, and I still see him there. And I said, hey, I'm going to walk across and go and talk to the guy. And they were like, dude, don't bother the guy, man. He's good, like, don't do it. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of tacky. Like, don't do it. And I was like, okay. And for some reason, I listened to them, and I'm like, and then I got in the car, and we said goodbye. I got in the car, I looked at my wife. I was like, wow, I just made a massive mistake. She's like, wow. I said, well, what's the worst that could have happened? I could have walked up to him and say, sorry, hey man, what are you doing? I'm kind of sorry, I mean, you're amazing. Congrats, so nice to meet you, goodbye. Or he could have said, hey, however I was going to, you know, what I had in my mind of trying to give him my card or whatever was going through my mind at the time. You never know what could have happened. And I'm like, if you don't take the chance, you've got nothing anyway. So I walked away from that with nothing. What are the chances of me ever landing in front of this major, major director again? It's probably not going to happen. And to me, it was a choke. Just because I know what I can do when I'm standing with someone.
But I'm going to say this to you. The next time that happens, and it will, you won't hesitate a second.
Yeah.
So again, I always come back to, like, we all make mistakes. The question is, what do you learn from the mistake?
What do you learn? Yeah.
And you reflected. and you became that much more definitive on what you'll do the next time. There will be a next time. Yeah. You're right. You can't take that one back, but there'll be a next time. And the next time you won't vacillate. You'll be definitive in going up to that person.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, because it exists. I mean, Amit's, our friend Amit's story is very similar.
And look, we've all been in that position, where we're debating. We don't want to be like everyone else. We don't want to, be imposing. Me too.
Yeah.
And, and it takes experience. It takes mistakes to really have the level of clarity to say, who gives an F? Yeah. Like it's coming from authenticity. It's coming from contribution. I'm going to go do it. And if that person, it doesn't land on them well, it's all meant to be for that same
anything
reason.
I would do or say would come hopefully out of
100%
in a
contribution.
In a respectful way.
Yep.
So, but anyway, it was just it bothered me.
That's great. But
then you talk about the downward spiral thing. Like it bothered me for days. My wife was like, "Oh, dude, like snap out of it. Like
gotta let it go, man.
Gotta let it go.
Yeah, learn from it for sure and let it go. Because
absolutely.
you can't do anything about it at this point
it's a
other
burden.
than what happens next time.
It's a burden. Yeah, I think it's an American thing too. Your friends were American, or were your friends American?
No, my wife is. No, but funny enough, my two friends are South African.
It's funny because I feel like Americans have more humility than they need, right? Like, I would never go up to that director in,
But I'm not going to argue it's not humility. It's like they're afraid to be embarrassed or not. Like, I don't know.
Yes. Well,
right.
I think that's part of the,
part of
the humility
it's
piece,
not
right?
humility.
Like,
there's a distinction though.
Right.
So I'm going to switch to it. So you referenced, and I know this because I know you personally, working with developers. So let's talk about that for a moment. Yeah. How did that start? What are the pros and cons of that? Because I think that's an important thing for our audience to understand.
There are some pros and cons. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Well, I guess I always was working with developers. We all do, right, along the way.
Not all.
Yeah. Well, Thomas James Holmes or TJC back in the day, they were big clients of mine, and did a lot of transactions with them when they first came out, and that might have been my first introduction to really, really having developer clients that was consistent, but the positive and the negative. So I'll never forget. So actually, at one point, I landed up leaving Bob after a long, long run with him. Maybe like 14, 15 years we were together. And I went to Normand and Associates with Gavin, who's one of my best friends as the manager of the office. And we had actually done, funny enough, a development deal. And that's how it came about. And Gavin was like, hey, why don't you come talk to us? And then I landed up going to, nothing negative towards Bob or anything, but just time for a change, or whatever. And landed up out of that develop, because Gavin had to develop, and I was selling a tear down on Inglewood in Marvissa, where it was. And out of that transaction, Gavin, I guess, could see what I could do. We had actually done a deal before of a condo that he had, condo building in Brentwood. So besides we're both South African and we're friendly. So I landed up having a meeting with him and Mikey and landed up working there. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You
about developers.
About developers. So
pros and cons.
Yeah, and so I'd had a really good 2015 and 16, and I landed up going to Normand and Associates in 2017. And all I did that year, the only thing I did was I chased massive developers, big developers. And I was writing the biggest offers of my entire career. I was writing deals I'm talking about for teardowns in Truesdale, like for 18 million on Robert Lane, like big offers that we kept missing them. And I was losing out on these deals by, a couple $1 million or whatever it was, but months and months and months were going by, and
weren't selling anything.
I wasn't selling anything.
You were focused
on
those.
On market or off market or some of both?
Probably most off market.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm pretty good at the off market stuff, as we all are. But so I would walk into the office so excited. I was like, oh my God, I just wrote an $18 million offer. Like, they're asking 22. I think it's not much of a gap, but it would fall apart. And, I'd like to think that I can close a deal. And they just weren't closing. And months went by, and I turned around, I'm like, wow, I think I'd made like 80 grand, like 50 grand. And it was like August. I'd made no money. And I was like, wow, this isn't working. This isn't working. I ended that year not making much money at all. And just a little bit of context. So it was 2017. I'm very superstitious with numbers. 2018, I knew was going to be a great year because my younger brother, Anthony, who passed away, his birthday was the 18th of February. And I said to, like, 2007, we had just bought our house. So I said, I'd come back from that whole nightmare. We had just bought our house in Baldwin Hills, beautiful home overlooking the city. And coming back from that nightmare I went through to building up the scratch to even put down 20, 30% of what it was to buy the house took almost everything I had. And I never forget, when I closed on this house in 2017, I said to Kim, don't worry, I have a deal with the developer. We're good. I'm going to make, it's wrapped. I had the buyer and it was pretty much locked in, but it wasn't locked in writing. And I think I'd taken out quite a bad loan to get that house because I had a blemish on my credit, which was going to be off in 6 months from the time I bought the home. Right. But I took a massive chance because I knew that I have an eye and I knew that this house was a winner. And I bought the house from my friend Paul Skickney, who's an amazing flipper developer who was a client who we actually have a company called Agent Wise where Josh knows about, we flip homes and have agents get involved in the deals, and that's another business model which we could discuss at a later time. But so Paul was kind enough to do the deal with me, and when I closed on that house after putting in everything, I think I had like 10 grand in my bank account, and I had this horrible loan at like 8 or 9%, and I think my mortgage payment was 8 grand. But I had this deal lined up that I was going to make this money, and we were good. I closed that, and long story short, that the guy sold that deal to someone else for 50 grand more and didn't come back to me saying, hey, like, can you come up?
Yeah.
And that hit me hard. But again, I was writing all these deals and these big development deals that unfortunately weren't actually closing. So that was a tough year for me. And there was a point like, do we sell this house? Do I rent it out? Like, what do we do? And, kind of boxed through the year. And I said to Kim, on the 1st of December, I said, we're going to throw a New Year's party here. And we went and bought decorations, Happy New Year. And we put it all over the house, everywhere on the 1st of December. And we had these like, Happy New Year, 2018 everywhere because of my late brother.
Yeah.
I said, I know 2018 is going to be a great year. I'm not going to chase these developers. I'm going to get back to the basics. I'm going to work my open houses. I'm going to sell a condo for 500 grand. I'm going to do the basic real estate that I know works, that I know I can sell and close. And I think it was by April, I'd done like 14 transactions of 2018. And thank God.
And so unpack that for a minute. Like 14 deals, where do they come from broadly? I know you can't remember. Give us a.
I don't want to sound like airy fairy, but it was energy. It was getting out of this negative 2017 chase or whatever I was doing. Yeah. And like I say, like, there was a reason these big deals didn't. I can bridge a gap of $4 million on a deal. I know I can, and I just wasn't. And it was, call it Anthony being an angel, call it my mindset, call it 2018, call it whatever you may want to be. There was just a switch of energy and outlook and positivity and mindset.
So the 14, I just wanted to, because we still haven't answered that. Was that past relationships? Was it new relationships?
It was a bit of both. It was, just moved into this new neighborhood. We had become friends with neighbors up the street. They loved us.
So there was some neighborhood.
So they actually but we started having
Ladera was a great. You were in Ladera, is that what you said?
Baldwin Hills.
Baldwin Hills.
Yeah, that was a very up and coming area at the time as well.
Exploding.
Yeah, it was exploding. I mean,
people found out. There are all these mid-century moderns. You get this great views, the price point.
Yeah. So the house we bought was actually a Buff and Hensman house, which are famous architects. And we have like a 300-degree view of Los Angeles. It's a very, very pretty house. We're lucky with that. And thank you, Paul. And so those neighbors had referred a couple friends and I ended up selling them a few properties. I was doing my open houses, but like condos. And I guess the market was just thriving too. I mean, it's not just me, right? I mean, obviously it's a busy market. There's,
the market was very vibrant.
And like everything in real estate, right? It's all momentum based. So, you start closing, you get a listing or whatever of a condo in Brentwood for 800 grand and you sell that or you double pop that one and you meet 4 or 5 buyers and out of the 4 or 5 you sell those 2 people to, and then that's, it's like everything. It's just got the momentum, the ball starts to roll and I call it a real estate wave.
Yep.
And I actually am a very wavy agent. Like I can have bad years and then have great years and have bad years and have great years.
How did you connect with those in the neighborhood?
The people?
Yeah.
So again, someone walks past me, I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? I'm Brett. We just moved into this house. You know, I'm not going to, you know, yeah. Actually,
So you were active in...
And there's a very big developer that actually lives on my street on Weatherford in a guy by the name of Keith. Yeah, he's a monster developer. So we befriended each other and we've done some deals together. Yeah.
So just really engaging, connecting, that's coming back to your superpower.
Yeah,
but you got to go out there and take initiative and do that. I got to just continue to say that, which something that may seem so obvious to you is not necessarily obvious to others, is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're always hunting.
Hunting's a strong word. I don't know.
I understand. but you know, you use the word salesman a lot, and salesman is a strong word too in
you
the
know,
American vernacular.
It's you know, it's I don't want to say Americanized because that wouldn't be fair at all. And I don't say a negative connotation, but when I go back to South Africa after being here for 30, I can tell how you know, when I meet someone, how my mindset is, the questions I ask, I'm like always thinking real estate, you know, but I guess you're almost just trained into that way of thinking, you know, it's not a negative or it's not gluttony or coming out of, I want money. It's just like, okay, you're here, what do you do? Like, but you know, South Africans, it's not so much kind of cut to, maybe it's even an LA thing. I'm like, hey, how are you? Oh, cool. I'm Brandon. So what do you do, Joe?
So just more direct here.
A little bit more direct, yeah.
Go to New York and see what that looks like. They always would tell me about, go to LA, everyone's like wishy-washy and whatever. New York, it's like boom, boom, boom.
Straightforward.
So I always say I'm a fast New Yorker. Like, I guess it's, but again,
That's
everything's relative,
I
right?
don't know. I find that LA people are quite direct, so.
I feel like they are
'Cause you're an East Coast
always
guy. How do you-
open for the conversation, right? I particularly, I'm not very good at small talk, right? And starting like I want to have interesting conversations. I'm always interested in people. I'm curious. So I've bridged that like small talk gap by like just being able to ask questions, right? Like be curious about people and engage them. And when I say hunter, I also mean like just being present in the moment to explore
Opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you know, someone said something to me very early in my career and it stuck with me. And they said, there's nothing more dangerous than a real estate agent that actually doesn't need the commission. Do you know what I mean? And I thought about that. I was like, wow, what does that mean? Like we all need commission, but there's a lot of agents that are independently wealthy or come from wealth or whatever it may be. And I watch certain agents' behavior and how they sell or how they interact with their clients. And you can tell when someone is after the deal or even when I do shows, I can tell, you know, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I can tell when someone walks into my listing and how they're interacting with their clients, or when the client brings up something and how they answer or not, is if they like honest or if they're really, really, you know, going for the close or if they're there just to actually, you know,
pick up a paycheck.
Yeah, or if they're there to actually help their buyer, you know, and the family get into a home that they love and want. When, like I say, for me, that, you know, it took 5 years once to get, you know,
So
clients
if you're, I think when
right
people
deal.
know you're willing to walk away, it creates a whole different complexion. And it also gives you that much more confidence. So I think that, to me, when you said that, that's how I interpret
That's
that.
a takeaway.
If they're willing to walk away because they know their value or whatever the case may be, and then they act.
You mean the agent walk away?
Right. If the agent's willing to walk away, they don't need the deal, to your point. And they're willing to walk away if it's not the right person, the right deal.
I was just about to say.
They have a certain level of confidence, and people, I mean, human nature is to sort of want what you can't have. I mean, a little bit, you know, there's a psychology there. So I think that's how I see that. Yeah. So people are attracted to that in certain respects.
When you said walk away, I was like, well, what are you walking away from? I agree. You know, I would never walk away from anything, not because I want the dollar. I'm only going to walk away, like you say, if someone really treats me badly or speaks to me badly or doesn't really appreciate the work that I'm putting in, or so on and so forth. But, you know, at the same time is that it's also the challenge, you know, like when you're working with someone and you know, you're going on the search to find them something, there's nothing more rewarding than bringing someone into a house, especially if something's off market where someone doesn't have access to it, and you
It
go,
moves them.
hey, like I found something I think you're going to like. And they walk and go, wow, Brett, this is amazing. Like, thank you. Like this is, and then 10 years later, they're still living in the house and they've brought up 2 children in there. It's a good feeling,
They feel seen, right? They feel heard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that's
So
gratifying.
what's the future? Like you've worked with developers, you do development yourself, you invest yourself. You've been around this business now, and you're a savvy business person, independent of real estate.
Josh.
What's the ideal world look like for you over the next few years? Like what?
So, so again, like I just moved to Malibu, right? And obviously a very tricky market to break into. There's monster agents out there. There's monster agents out there that are that dominate. And I'm not going to bump Chris or Sandra out of the way anytime soon. And both great guys. So if you ask me what my real estate dream is, would be to be selling properties in Malibu. Please God, developing some properties out there. But at the same time, I have friends and clients who are my friends that live out here, and then my office is still in Brentwood on San Vicente. So I'm always available. I have my core business, West Side, and thankfully people do call me and say, hey, I need your services. We're thinking about doing this, we're doing that, or come take a look. We want to sell, or maybe we want to move here or there, and so. My future would be to try and build some type of a name, or I have done transactions in Malibu, and significant ones, but it's very sporadic because I've never lived there or focused there. But to build some type of a name and get build a little bit of a brand there, and get known in that community of someone that is a good agent, an ethical guy, a good guy, and knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about, and can source a lot of off-market stuff and do some deals there. The development there is a little tricky as well because Malibu's a lot harder to deal with in terms of getting things done through the city. Agent-wise, with Paul would be a focal point of building that brand. And we came what we thought was from a very good place. It was essentially came where Paul and I were discussing about possibly doing some developments, and I said to him, I feel that agents are left out of these deals. You sell someone a lot. Let's just make the numbers easy. $1 million, you get your 2.5%, you make your 25 grand, and you split it with your brokerage, and you walk with whatever. And if you're lucky enough and you have a good relationship with that person, or the deal is you get the listing on the flip, and you'll make some money. But if the developer buys that lot at $1 million, right, and knows what he's doing, that person's going to make 500-600 grand on that deal. And I said, why can't agents be part of this? Well, we said, why can't agents be a part of this transaction? Maybe they want to put their commissions in. Maybe they want to throw additional funds in. I don't want to get too far into our business model, but there's ways for agents to bring clients in and get paid referral fees.
Participate.
Participate. So that's the word. And we're trying to actually help agents, because it is harder to do deals today. It's more competitive, and I'm the perfect example. If I would have not done the restaurant things and just got involved in real estate deals, I would have been a whole different level of financial freedom today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I've asked hundreds of agents when we were thinking about doing this agent-wise, hey, do you guys invest in real estate?
Yeah.
And I was so surprised how many agents don't invest in real estate. Some don't even own their own properties, and so on and so forth. So we thought this would be a cool vehicle for agents to kind of, participate in deals. But even if excuse me, if I may, say to Josh, hey, Josh, you're doing deals at the moment. I know you want to throw 500 grand into something. And Josh goes, actually, I like this transaction. This is a good one. The numbers make sense. It's around the corner from my house. I like this. Yeah, sure. Maybe Josh will throw some money into that. He'll take his profit in a year from now, maybe keep it in and roll it into the fund and keep it going and so forth. But our premise of that whole business, and again, of course, we want to make money. We're not saints. Well, we are saints. We still want to make money. but our model is a lot of the profits go to the investors. We don't take any management fees. Our scale is actually heavily sided towards having the agents and investors taken care of. So I'm going to, the answer to your original question, what does the future look like? I'd like to try and build something. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm a complete humanitarian here. There is hopefully profit for us on the
it's a win-win for everyone.
But if I can help my friends and colleagues, and I mean, I know a lot of people in this business that can get involved in deals that can actually turn around and go, wow, like that was a pleasant experience. They're good guys, and I actually walked away making some money. I think I'm going to maybe every deal I do, I'm maybe going to throw 20 grand at this or whatever. And if we're helping our fellow colleagues, get ahead in life and invest, because again, forget the real estate. I've invested in crypto. I've lost it. Anything I do is not in real estate. I lose.
Right.
So,
hey, you create enough value for others, and the money, I always say, is a natural byproduct. And I think that's I live my life that way, and it's worked well for me. And we make some mistakes along the way too, for sure. That's the only way we learn.
Yep.
So
when you brought up you use that the vernacular salesman several times,
did I really?
Right?
Oh man, I hope I'm not coming across as a cheesy car salesman.
But I marked it up to cultural vernacular, right? But what does it mean to you, right, to be a salesperson, I guess, or a realtor, or to represent your clients in their endeavors?
You always know when you're being sold something, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm a car guy, and I like to get in and out of my cars pretty quickly and so on and so forth. And you walk into a dealership and you just know when a guy's selling you hard, or a guy's there to help you see the amazing value in the Thunderbird or the Porsche or whatever it is you're looking at. And when you do sales for a living, you want to buy stuff. Like you want to be sold, at least I do. But it's nice to be sold by someone who's not actually selling you something, and it's providing the service. And that's what I've realized. And again, learning from the best around me, or even agents that I've done deals with, where I've negotiated with certain people, or walked away from a transaction going, wow, like I wish I was more like her. Like she really, really was coming from a true place of service 100% of the time. I felt it throughout the deal. You know what I mean? And I think it's something that you learn along the way.
Yeah.
When you honing in on your skills.
If it's not a natural ability, you should learn it.
Yeah, but even if like I would think I'm a natural salesman, but at the same time, there's natural salesmen. I know guys that are very forceful, and it works for some people. But I guess you also got to find kind of what works for you and your personality.
I come back to it's authenticity, it's passion, it's knowledge. Like when you combine those, and it's when it's authentic and genuine, and if it's not, and people are just feeding you what they think you want to hear instead of being honest and truthful, you can feel and sense that. That's the stigmatized salespeople. Those that actually are passionate about and believe what they're saying, and they say it again with vigor, with authenticity, with passion, with knowledge, with actually real information. That's great salesmanship, and that's what I think that's what falls well on people.
Stink of desperation,
right? Yeah,
right.
For me, first and foremost, I feel, I always try to come from a place of service, and with that service, hopefully create some value, and try 100% authentically try to do the best for my clients in terms of getting the best deal for them, selling, the best way I know how to in a listing, presenting the property in the best manner, in the best light to the public on my Instagram, whatever you're doing, open houses, and try and do, the best job you actually can, because I don't like making mistakes. And even if I do get paid on a deal where I feel like I could have maybe squeeze an extra 50 grand out of someone, like it does sit with me. It bothers me when I don't feel I 100% did my best. And so I hope that my clients,
there's no doubt,
feel that and see it, because, I do care. Like, I don't want to sound cheesy, but I really, really do care. I care about my clients. I care about them, getting a good deal, doing a good job for them, and also walking away from the deal knowing that I did my best and that they felt that. And, there have been times where, there have been very hard deals where maybe I walked away and go, that didn't go so well, or, that person, I didn't feel the most positive energy coming from that person. We just closed this, and is something wrong? And did I do something wrong? And, I can have these mind games where if I feel like I didn't handle it the right way, and when whether it's real or not real, probably a lot of it's not real, to be honest. In fact, most of it's probably not real. It bothers me. So I know, coming from my heart, that I'm a very authentic,
That's a standard.
I don't want to use the word salesman.
Good.
It's like,
Well, you have
real estate
the car guy. Well, the car guy was, at a sales meeting that morning, and they said, "Hey, we have extra inventory of the T-Birds. If you can move those, I'm going to give you a $1,000 bonus on it."
Yeah.
And that's his motivation for pushing you towards the T-Bird, opposed to kind of finding out what you want and satisfying your needs, opposed to his.
100%.
So let me ask you this. Real estate, or perhaps even outside of real estate, you don't need to name names, and it may not mean anything to us, but like, who do you like admire and want to like in some degree emulate in business, and why? And you don't even need to name it. It's more of like why.
So here's the thing. Like, what I fight with a lot right now in my life is, again, I was in that hospitality world, right? And I'm a foodie, and I love food, and I love that industry. And if you
This is Chef Joey, right? I'm not kidding.
I love to eat.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
he's a great cook.
I mean, I can cook well. I wouldn't call myself a chef.
I wouldn't call myself a chef either.
But like, a lot of the times when let's say on those runs or whatever we're talking about, I'm still always thinking food. I'm still always thinking of, okay, I mean, I've learned from my mistakes, and I know the $50,000 rent a month restaurant, which is what we had back then. Even it would be 100 today, probably, is probably not the way to go. But I still have this gnawing desire to achieve something in that world, to achieve some success in that world. We did have a bit of success with the restaurant, but true success.
Are there any people that you would love to emulate in that respect? And I guess really the question is like, what are those attributes that you admire?
I wouldn't say there's a specific person that, obviously I admire chefs, and
sure.
I can, anyone who's, Nobu's one of my favorite restaurants, I admire him, for what he's done and achieved. But I wouldn't say there's a specific person that has built something that I'm like, oh, I want to be him.
Yeah.
Another thing I do is I'm a DJ. So,
that's right.
And I'm actually a pretty good DJ. So,
for you to say that,
in the perfect dream world, if you ask me what I'd love to be doing, would be flying around the world DJing at parties, beaches, and that would be my absolute dream. But I'm a good DJ, but I'm not good at actually building songs and making tracks. So I think it's very challenging to become a substantial, world-renowned DJ if you don't have actual number one hits playing on the radio. Producing stuff like that. Music, so who do I admire? I admire the guy that's sitting in Ibiza, Black Coffee, a fellow South African who just bought a 157 million rand house in Clifton, overlooking the ocean. Like, in the true sense of the word, those are really the guys that I'm like, wow, like.
Is there anyone in real estate? And you don't have to name names, but like, is there anyone you can think of in real estate and why? Yeah,
I mean, obviously admire the guys that have come from nothing. You talk about Asante, who, came from, where he did, and what a guy like that has achieved. There's a lot of agents that I see that work smart and not so hard, that are able to close these transactions with amazing people. And, I don't want to name names, but, I aspire to be more like that, please God, if I could. I admire Paul, my partner, a lot, in terms of, again, someone coming from South Africa with nothing and building a company that he has, where the guy's flipped 700 homes in 20 years,
Wow, yep.
So, he's on the list for sure. Don't get a big head, Paul. So I mean, though, there's guys that I see putting up these monster houses, where I'm like, I walk into and I go, wow, like, can you imagine, building something in Bel Air that, that sells one day for $50 million, that you're a part of that, involved in that, or, you're the builder / agent on a deal like that. It would be would be the highest level of success for me. You know what I mean? And then I have clients. I have very close friends of ours that we met, Elisha and David. They are friends that we met actually when Kim and I, when we were just coming out of, the struggle, and we're living in an apartment in the marina. And we met them laying at the pool, and, we became close friends, and to this day we are best friends and family. We are, our lives are very aligned, but they are people that have an impeccable eye for design. They are first and foremost my best friends, but my clients that I've sold 4, 5, 6, 7 deals with, and every single time they do something, it was a condo to a house here to a house there, and now they own a property at the top of Bel Air Road that is just unreal. And I admire a lot, because I know, again, where they've come from, and to see people with extraordinary talents that they have, these turn, homes that are just gutted into masterpieces, where I know I couldn't do that right now. I just couldn't. I have an eye, but I don't have that eye yet.
Yep.
And so I admire them a lot too. If I could emulate them, and even do half as good as what they've done with the properties that I've sold them, that would be amazing. So it's nice to have friends that you surround yourself with, that also that you can learn from, and that inspire you to do better and be better in the business that you do. You know what I mean?
I guess my question to you is, because I've got to know you, I consider you a good friend.
Thanks, Josh. The same.
With respect to your brother, how does that impact your life? I know it's a big, broad question, but
it's a big one. Yeah. So unfortunately, I've actually had a lot of loss. I've lost my whole family. Both myself and my wife, Kimmy, she doesn't have much family either. So we our friends really are our family in the true sense of the word. So when you ask how Anthony impacted my life, it was, he was my best friend. He was my only family living here in Los Angeles with me. And when he passed, it was a year and a half of real mourning, and I wasn't motivated to do anything, and I was struggling, and disbelief in God, and this is a much longer deeper conversation than to be had here, but you talk about, again, positivity in business and things like that. When you're down and your head's down and you don't really believe in, is there a God? Like, if there was, why has this happened to the sweet boy? And you just don't see the light anywhere, even if it's sunny, shining in California, and it's the best summer's day, and it's just gloomy. How do you go out there and sell real estate? Who's going to want to work with you anyway when you're down, when you're not attracting?
Hit with a sledgehammer.
You're repelling. So it got to the point where I was in a bad depression, from it, and crying every day, driving around listening to Depeche Mode, which is our favorite, not getting out of this. And then my beautiful wife Kimmy, she said to me the one day, she said, Brett, I love you, but it's hard. I'm here with you forever, but it's hard. Like, Anthony wouldn't want this. He'd want you to get up and fight, and then it turns into a little bit of fire. Then you're like, wait a second, I'm a Miller, he's a Miller. Like, I got to go out there and hold the family name high. I got to achieve. What am I going to do? Like, sit here and moan and groan, and I'm never going to get a home at that point. And he died in 2015, and so that'll show where I said that at that point I still didn't have much, and I truly believe that Kimberly's saying to me, all right, I love you, but it's time to go. Like, get off the couch and do what you do. Like,
let's change the trajectory.
And also for our relationship, let's have some fun again. Let's, she loved Anthony as much as I did.
Yeah.
And that's, you want to hold your family name high, and I want him to be proud, and my parents to be proud of me, and please God, they are. And that those few years, I think it was 2016. Those were the years where I started fighting again, in terms of getting out there, getting in my car and pushing and staying focused, and okay, I'm going to go out there and do what I do, and sell some real estate, and hopefully help some people get into some nice homes, and thank God, it works. Yeah. But now, he's an angel on my shoulder. I believe in it all again. I believe in God. I believe in the source, and as long as I hopefully can stay connected, you know, things will come my way, and I can achieve a little bit of success along the way. If I,
I was going to say
amazing
thank you for
story.
sharing
Yeah.
that and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
No, of
and
course.
I can assure you that they're all unbelievably proud. That I can say with the utmost of confidence.
appreciate it. Thank you
yep.
so much.
Well, it's, you know, the human struggle is different for different people, and capacity is, you know, sometimes random, and things happen that we have to deal with, and you know, you've reinvented yourself several times. You know, you had everything, you lost everything, you had everything, you lost everything. You know, and
Please God, I don't have to do that again, because all
yeah,
the
you know,
stuff,
enough
you know,
character.
like,
I have enough character at this
Yeah.
point, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
But it's you know, it helps me understand the core of how and why you are such a good connector with people, right?
Thank you.
It's important to you, right? And I think that's really wonderful.
It is. You know, I've always been a lover of people, and
Yeah.
and like really like being
Yeah,
interested
yeah.
in, you know, your fellow man and someone that's standing in front of you and what they have to say and what they do, and fascinates me, you know, where people come from and the different businesses they're involved in their families and so forth. But then you know, there's also a lot not so nice people in this world too.
Yeah.
And the older you get, you know, you get burned. I mean, I had a business partner in, you know, one of the restaurant deals I thought was going to be my mentor in life, and turned out to be not the best, you know, situation. And then like, wait a second, that's not good, you know. So, you know, then you start to doubt, and you start to, wait, maybe, you know, not everyone's amazing, you know, but hopefully you're wise enough where you can, you know, be smart enough to sniff out
Discern.
just, you know, who's on your team, who's not on your team, and
to
who's
narrow the possibilities
Yeah,
of
exactly.
a bad outcome. Yeah.
you know, and start to actually, you don't want the negatives in your life to overlap too much into the positive.
So another way of
especially when
saying
it comes
that,
to people.
Agreed.
That's I agree. Like, I'm a huge believer, give people the benefit of the doubt till they show you otherwise, knowing that you're going to get disappointed and burned,
Absolutely.
and that's okay. It's like I always say, when someone quote unquote burns you, or you break up with someone, you never date again. You can't let so many people extrapolate that and like never trust again, or they become super cynical when they get burned by someone. You know, I just think that's unfortunate. You know, I understand that, but like I get that's just part of the expectation that I create. People are going to disappoint you, and I'm always going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
So well, you just said the word
agreed.
expectation. So
Yeah.
I don't actually expect anything, you know, anymore. Like, if you know what I mean. And I don't, you know, it's like, don't expect anything and be surprised.
You got it.
Pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
at every
Yep.
result. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That's the attitude.
Or we're going
I
to
take
move
too.
to the fire round, and it's designed to be quick, fast,
Okay.
visceral answers. Don't overthink it, and it's just a lot of fun and simple. I checked, Joey, the ones I'm going to do.
He's going to
Okay.
he's going to be a lot of fun with it.
So what's your favorite childhood memory?
Sitting on the beach with my parents in Mshlanga, looking at the ocean, throwing a frisbee, and then going to RJ's steakhouse for dinner. Just, I wouldn't say it's a memory, it's memories. It's the holidays. It's this nostalgia of sharing moments with my family that I can no longer share them with.
All right. So, what's the best compliment you've ever gotten?
You got good teeth.
Yeah, good teeth. I love it.
Look at that. What's the quality you most admire in others?
Honesty and loyalty.
You have a lot of passions. I love this question for you. What is your greatest extravagance? Hey.
Food and cars.
Yeah. Any particular kind of food?
Sushi and pasta, but I'm kind of allergic to gluten now, so
no.
it's a little bit of a problem for me, you know?
What do you consider to be your greatest achievement?
Kimberly.
Which talent would you like to have? What is a talent you'd like to have?
I'd like to be able to actually make music, to produce house music tracks. Yeah, I'd like to have that talent.
House is having a comeback, apparently.
I don't know if it ever went away.
In my mind, it did.
Are you like an old house head, like Chicago or something?
Philadelphia. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like real house, like deep house.
Yeah.
What's the attribute that you have that you're most proud of?
Sincerity, honesty, openness, vulnerability. I'm pretty much an open book, which may not be good all the time, but I'm an open book.
Yeah. Do you want to ask another one? Because I'm going to.
No, go to the mountain.
So you're athletic. You love to run. Inevitably, I know you hike. You go for a hike. And you're climbing this, great, little mountain in LA, and you get to the top, and you look down, and beneath you are your friends, your family, that people that you really care about, and you get to shout down at them one thing. What do you shout?
Are you proud of me?
Love it, brother. Well, I'll speak for that.
I'm a fan.